This video is practically a continuation on the Sero ex-listener, but it is like years later. Like years later. Like you and Sero have both of your own agencies, the Baku squad. They're all heroes. Everyone's heroes. Deku's number one. Like you're all adults. So you were getting ready in the locker rooms of your agency to go out with the Baku squad, is what you called yourselves, for drinks, something that didn't happen very often. You walked out to see two of your close friends holding your clothes. You stared at them for a second. Huh? Hey! You screamed. They looked at you, then looked at each other, and made a mad dash for the door. You wrapped yourself in a towel and then ran after them, cursing through the halls. I swear, you two, I need to be somewhere! They just giggled at your frustration. Aside from the Baku squad, they were pretty close friends. You soon run out into the main entrance, you still only having a towel wrapping around you, as you chased after the two menaces, who were throwing parts of your clothes to each other. Sero, Mina, and Kirishima were waiting at the entrance for you, when they heard screaming and laughing. All three looked over, seeing two girls running around with clothes in hands. Kirishima knew exactly what was going on and laughed until he saw whose clothes they took. You ran past the three, whose all mouths were agape, screaming at the girls. I'm gonna kill you both! You screamed, finally getting a hold of one of them. Yeah, Emmy, save yourself! Mika screamed. Emmy stopped and looked back. Okay! She yelled back with a grin on her face. Hey! Oh no you don't. You yelled, running up to her while dragging Mika behind you, and you grabbed Emmy, who scrambled and struggled, then eventually gave up. You gave them a glare and they both sheepishly gave you your clothes, while trying not to giggle. I swear, you two are so difficult sometimes. Mika giggled, then bursted out into laughter, making Emmy do the same. You just stared at the two and couldn't help your little giggles at the back of your throat. You turned around to head back to your lockers and saw the three friends staring at you. Mina was grinning with her mouth wide open. Kirishima looked like he didn't know exactly what to do, and Sero was just shaking his head. You walked up to them holding your towel so it didn't fall. I'll take a few more minutes, you said, laughing at what just happened. You looked up to see Sero had a hint of pink on his cheeks, averting his eyes when you looked at him. Ugh, finally. You groaned, leaning on Kirishima. Enjoy the chase? A boy yelled from the other side of the agency. You want to be chased next? I can help with that, you said, eyeing him with a glare. He just walked away as you stuck your tongue out at him. Let's just go. Bakugo is going to have a tantrum if we're late, Mina says, interlocking her arms with yours, as she skipped out the door with the boys following. We're here! Kirishima yelled, running up to the two blondes who were already waiting at the table. About time! Bakugo scowled. You laughed. You loved seeing him angry. It was so funny to you. You all sat down and started to talk. You talked about UA times, missions, patrols, and just random things. You had to say you missed just hanging out. You thought to yourself, when you heard multiple buzzes, one coming from you, signaling something was happening, and whatever it is, they needed heroes. You all got up, and Bakugo practically threw the money at the poor worker, as you all dashed out the door, not even bothering to go put your hero costumes on. As you got to the location sent, it was a disaster. There were buildings caught on fire and crumbling to the ground, civilians trying to get out, and a huge Nomu, which seemed to be the reason for all the disaster. You and Bakugo made a mad dash to the Nomu. You two were more of offense heroes than defense. You jumped in helping Deku and Shoto. Hey, I'm glad you guys are here, Deku yelled, landing next to the both of you. Yin, I need you to attack its leg. Todoroki has been attacking it. It's the weak spot. You nodded and ran up to the Nomu, dodging rubble and debris on the ground. You saw Todoroki freezing its leg. That's the one, you said, making your hands into claws and doing a running jump, scratching the Nomu, cutting through its leg, making the Nomu scream. Bakugo then went for the face, exploding it. It screamed in what anyone could describe, just agony. You were confused. You thought Nomus couldn't feel pain. They were broken people. You were snapped out of your thoughts to someone yelling your name. Yen! You looked to see a huge arm swinging at you, and you were grabbed around the waist by tape and pulled away as the arm merely gazed your body. You were thrown into arms and looked up to see Sero, huffing and holding you. You looked to see how far Sero actually threw his tape to get to you. That must be a new record. Hey, thanks! You yelled as to be heard over the fire and yells. The civilians are out! He yelled back at you, and you gave him a knowing look. Throw me, you said. And without hesitation, Sero wrapped you in his tape, swinging you back and throwing you. Everyone duck! You and Sero screamed in unison as everyone got down and you slammed into the Nomu, pushing your legs into its gut as it fell. You landed huffing, and more heroes surrounded the Nomu that was now on the ground. You did it! You heard Kaminari yell and turn to him. He ran up and hugged you. You hugged back and smiled. It worked! You heard Sarah and looked as he was practically jumping up and down like a little boy who just got a toy. You giggled and ran up to him and started jumping with him. How long have you guys been practicing that? Mina asked, smiling. Since UA. Sarah replied with a huge smile on his face. We haven't had the time to use it in battle yet. Sarah looked at you and you both started jumping again. Mina smiled at you two. You two did not change from the UA days, not one bit. The healing process of the battle was bliss for you. You laid in an ice bath. It helped with your joints and your fur. Groaning at how good it made your joints feel, Emmy and Mika laughed. I heard you finally used the move, Mika said. Yeah, it only took 6 years to find the time to. All three of you giggled. You were in your office of your agency. You put a bath in there a while ago. Having your own agency was both a curse and a blessing. You weren't even at your agency that much, being at Sero's so often with the girls, Emmy and Mika. Letting out a small groan again, you heard a knock on the door. Mika's head pricked up. Who is it? You said, eyes shut, just trying to enjoy the cold. It's Sero, you heard from the other side of the door, and immediately smiled. Hang on, tape face. I'm in an ice bath. Give me a minute. You replied, getting out of the bath. And Mika and Emmy snickered to themselves. Something to say, ladies? You said, looking over your shoulder at them. No. Both of them said in sync. You shook your head, not being able to hold back the smile you had. We'll be going then, Mika said as they both left, greeting Sero and telling him you were changing. You can come in, you yelled as Sero opened the door a crack, sliding his hand through it with a bag. You didn't, you said, smiling. Sero opened the door all the way and you saw the boyish smile on his face. I did. You practically screamed, grabbing the bag. I love you, I love you, I love you! You yelled, taking out the contents. It was yours and Sero's, funnily enough, favorite cake. You both had a big sweet tooth and would go to bakeries whenever you could together or bring each other baked goods at work, but normally you would give each other heads up. This was a surprise to you. Sitting on the ground and picking up the cake, you started eating. Sarah shut the door, joining you. You two ate and talked for about 20 minutes when Sarah started to look nervous. He started fidgeting with his hands and sweating. You good? You asked, concern washing over your face as he looked at you, completely red. What the? Are you okay? Are you sick? You asked, leaning forward, placing a hand on his forehead. He grabbed your hand and shook his head. I'm not sick, don't worry. I'm just... His voice trailed off as you sat back down. You're what? You replied. Sarah sighed and looked at the ground where he was sitting, letting go of your hand and leaning back onto his. He looked away from you again. I need to tell you something, Sarah said, avoiding eye contact. You simply replied. Well, Yin, Sarah stopped himself and his eyes narrowed. You leant forward, taking his face in your hands. "Spit it out already, would ya?" you said with a reassuring smile on your face. His face relaxed. "I love you," he said, his eyes stuck onto yours. Now you looked at him with a confused face and taken aback. That was your line. You've never heard him say it before. Was he joking? You giggled nervously. "I do, Yin," he said, taking your hands from his face and into his. "I love you. I have since high school." He started getting flustered again, looking away as you just stared, your eyes softening, and you smiled. "You dog," you said, making him look at you, confused as you placed a kiss on his cheek. "Should have told me in high school, because I had and have the fattest crush on you," you said, giggling. Sero blushed, then moved his hands to your face. "Yin, can I kiss you?" he asked. You smiled at his shyness and nodded. He leant in with a hint of hesitation as your lips met his with a slow, soft kiss. Smiling into it, you gently twirled your fingers in his hair when you heard, You stopped and looked up to see none other than Mika and Emmy staring at you two, still with your hands in his hair. Rolling your eyes as Sero freaked out, blushing. When did you... How did you... It's not... He stuttered. You cut him off as don't embarrass him further. "Out and keep your mouths shut," you said with a glare at the girls. One was trying so damn hard not to scream, and the other was just awestruck. Mika grabbed Emmy's hand and shut the door as you sighed, looking at Sero, who was bright red at this point. You laughed. He wasn't normally like this. You grabbed his hand, placing a kiss to his cheek. "Don't worry about them. They're annoying, but they won't say anything." Sero sighed exasperatedly and slammed his forehead into your shoulder. "Can I hold you?" he asked. You wrapped your arms around him as he did the same, his head nuzzling into your neck. He let out a series of as a smile crossed your lips, and you both ended up letting exhaustion take a hold of you and falling asleep.